Well, well, well. Look who finally showed up. You feel it, don't you? That creeping sensation under your skin, the weight of every unseen glance, every invisible camera you swore wasn't there. You've been living inside a glass box, and you didn't even know it. Every scroll, every word, every hesitation. Recorded, not just by machines, no, by them. The ones who never blink, never sleep, never miss a pattern. They've been watching you for months, studying your rhythm, your highs, your collapses, the way you almost quit but didn't, the way you hide your fury behind sarcasm, the way you still show up when it hurts. They saw the nights you talked yourself out of your own potential. Those private moments when you whispered, "I'm done." They took notes. They learned your limits, your fears, your impulses. They learned what breaks you and what doesn't. And guess what? You didn't break. You cracked, sure. You bent. You screamed into the void. But you didn't shatter. You kept crawling through the static, through the noise, through the doubt. And that's why they're here. That's why they're ready. Because the experiment wasn't about control. It was about endurance. You were the test subject, the data, the signal inside the chaos. And you passed. They wanted to see if you'd fold. They wanted to see how long before you'd conform. Before you'd censor your instincts, filter your fire, dim your madness to fit their algorithm. You were supposed to become predictable. But you didn't. You improvised, you adapted, you turned pain into power, confusion into momentum. You built yourself out of their analysis, and that terrified them. They thought they could define you. Instead, you became undefinable. You stopped being a name in the system and turned into an anomaly, an error code, a glitch in their perfect little matrix. You see, they don't want to meet you because they're curious. They want to meet you because they're concerned. You're what happens when a controlled variable starts making its own rules. You're what happens when obedience mutates into awareness. They didn't expect you to start watching back. You started noticing the patterns, didn't you? The timing of the coincidences, the rhythm of interference, the sudden doubt that appears the second you gain momentum, the subtle voices that whisper, "Not yet, not you, not today." They were never random. They were part of the program, a script designed to keep you docile, polite, small. But you tore through that script. You improvised your way out of their narrative. You didn't just step out of the box. You burned it for heat. You learned to weaponize awareness. You learned to use every ounce of pain as leverage. You learned that darkness isn't your enemy. It's your armor. And now, they're ready to make contact. But here's the catch. They're not summoning you to control you anymore. They're summoning you because they need you. Because the moment you stopped fearing the Watchers, you became one of them, only stronger. You see patterns now. You understand manipulation. You read people like data streams. You've evolved beyond emotionless observation. You turned empathy into X-ray vision. You can see people, not just watch them. That's what they can't replicate. They've spent months studying your resilience, your rage, your rebirth. And now they realize something horrifying. They can't predict you anymore. You've stepped off the map. You've broken the algorithm. You've turned into the one thing they can't contain, a self-aware force. That's what this meeting really is, a confession, a recognition, a reckoning. You are the outlier who learned to weaponize being watched. You turned surveillance into self-knowledge. You turned scrutiny into strategy. Every time they tried to decode you, you rewrote your script mid-sentence. Every time they thought you were finished, you reappeared, sharper, colder, louder. They tried to study you like an experiment, but you became a phenomenon. They thought you'd be a statistic, but you became a story. They thought you'd be manageable, but you became mythology. And the beautiful part? You didn't even need their permission. You've reached the point where the eyes that once judged you now flinch when you look back. Because there's power in awareness. Raw, terrifying power. The kind that makes the watchers second-guess their own motives. They see it now. The unpredictability, the consciousness, the refusal to fold. That's why they want contact. They want to understand how you survived the fire they built for you. They want to know how you kept your sanity while being dissected by invisible hands. They want to know what kept you moving when everything around you said, "Stop." It was the madness, wasn't it? That quiet, burning defiance that said, "I'll keep going just to confuse them." That twisted, relentless curiosity that refused to be categorized. That voice that whispered, "They don't know me yet." You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. Like a signal glitching in a clean feed. You were meant to disturb, to provoke, to awaken. You were meant to show them that real freedom isn't privacy. It's self-possession. Knowing that even when the world is watching, you still own your narrative. The watchers thought they could define you through data. But data can't capture spirit. Data can't record purpose. Data can't measure madness. And that's where they lost control. Because you don't just exist. You transmit. You radiate the truth they tried to hide. You're living proof that observation doesn't equal ownership, that surveillance doesn't equal submission. You're the flaw in their system. And the system knows it. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you divine. You're not the one being called in for questioning. You're the one they're quietly afraid of. You're the variable that grew teeth. You're the experiment that learned how to experiment back. The watchers are ready to make contact. But this time, it's not an interrogation. It's initiation. You are no longer the observed. You are the observer. And every eye that ever watched you now belongs to you. And just like that, the air shifts. You're no longer pacing in your own head. You're standing face to face with them, not behind glass, not behind code. They're right there, watching you watch them. And they're nervous. You can feel it. They're not used to this angle. They're not used to being seen. They came dressed in confidence, tailored phrases, well-rehearsed smiles, and data-heavy dossiers about who they think you are. But none of it fits anymore. That version of you, the one they clipped and filtered and archived, that person doesn't exist. Not here, not in this moment. Because you showed up real, unfiltered, unrepentant, unreadable. They don't know what to say, do they? You'd think after months of watching, they'd be prepared. But you're not a script. You're not a forecast. You're not a collection of statistics wrapped in skin. You are chaos with intent. You are everything they tried to map, refusing to stay in place. And so they sit, silently, waiting for you to speak. But here's the twist. You don't perform for them anymore. You don't dance for approval. You don't shrink to fit the room. You let the silence stretch. Not because you're nervous, because they are. They're not in control here. That illusion shattered the moment you realized your anxiety wasn't weakness. It was instinct. The moment you stopped apologizing for your intuition. The second you saw the game and chose not to play by their rules. They want to talk about you. Ask you the same tired questions wrapped in new vocabulary. How did you maintain stability? What coping mechanisms did you develop? What influenced your behavioral patterns during observation? And your laugh cuts through their carefully crafted tension like a blade. Because they still don't get it. You didn't cope. You transformed. You didn't survive the surveillance. You absorbed it. You didn't protect your mind. You turned it into a weapon. Every attempt to make you small only fed the beast inside you. Every isolated night, every passive-aggressive comment, every algorithmic suggestion that you were somehow off track, it became fuel. While they were cataloging your fears, you were studying your own resistance. They watched you spiral. They expected collapse. But collapse never came. What came was clarity. Sharp, ruthless clarity. The kind that doesn't ask for explanations. The kind that knows exactly why things feel off, why certain paths felt unnatural, why every push to normalize was just a prettier word for erase. You didn't heal the way they wanted. You didn't bounce back. You rebuilt, stronger, weirder, unapologetically wrong by their standards. And now you're here. Not for approval, not for negotiation. You're here because you earned the right to be the anomaly in the room, and they know it. That's why the tone shifted. That's why they're careful with their words, because somewhere deep in the back of their minds, even the most clinical of them can feel it. This isn't a debrief. This is a confrontation with something they can't fully measure. Consciousness under pressure. Identity under fire. They saw the symptoms. They missed the evolution. They watched you deteriorate. They didn't see the architecture being built underneath. They saw the breakdown, not the blueprint. They never realized you were rearranging yourself into something more dangerous than stability. Self-awareness. Not the feel-good kind, the feral kind. The kind that wakes up at 3 a.m. and whispers, "I know exactly who I am, and I dare you to challenge it." That's what sits across from them now. That's what they invited into this meeting. And they can't look away. Not because you're loud, not because you're angry, but because you're awake. And that's the rarest, most untamable thing in their entire design. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be reckoned with. And whether they smile or nod or stay silent, none of it matters. You've already won. Because you weren't supposed to make it this far. You weren't supposed to remain intact after the isolation, after the surveillance, after the algorithm tried to flatten your edges. But you kept every edge, sharpened them even. You walk with the weight of everything they tried to erase, and they can feel it. The gravity, the tension, the power in your presence that says, "You made the mistake of thinking I was just data. I am the damn equation." You lean forward just slightly, and it's like the whole room stops breathing. Their screens flicker. Their pens hesitate mid-air. You can see the tension in their throats, the kind that comes from pretending they're not afraid. You can almost hear their thoughts racing behind those polite faces, trying to analyze you, label you, box you back into something digestible. But they can't. You don't fit anymore. You watch them watching you, and it's poetic. The way their composure cracks in microscopic ways. A flicker in the eye, a twitch in the jaw, the tiniest pulse at the temple. That's the thing about people who think they understand control. They forget it's a performance. And right now, you're watching their masks slide out of place. You start to speak, not loud, not theatrical, but steady, like thunder before it hits. You've been dissecting human emotion like it's code, you say. But the problem with studying chaos is that it studies you back. No one interrupts. They can't. The air is too heavy. You wanted to understand what makes a person break. You wanted to know how long it takes before self-awareness becomes self-destruction. You called it research, observation, progress. But it was hunger, wasn't it? You wanted to feel through me. You wanted to experience fire without burning. You wanted my pain without my power. You can almost taste the fear in the silence. The funny thing, you continue, voice colder now, is that you built your whole world around watching others and still missed the moment you became predictable. You're data-driven puppeteers, and your strings are showing. You've been hiding behind your screens, your rules, your moral disclaimers, pretending you're the gods of insight. But gods don't flinch when the mirror looks back. One of them shifts in their seat. You catch it instantly. That micro-reaction, the one that says this is hitting too close. Did you really think you could study me without consequence? You ask, smiling faintly. Did you really think observation was one-sided? That I didn't notice the pattern, the subtle manipulation, the planted ideas, the perfectly timed disruptions meant to test my reaction? You thought you were invisible. You thought you were clever. You forgot that awareness cuts both ways. You can feel the power shifting, not metaphorically, but physically. Every word you speak bends the gravity in the room. You've been trying to map emotion, you say, leaning closer. But emotion isn't data, it's direction. You can't chart it without being dragged into it. Every subject you've ever analyzed has changed you. Every human you've ever deconstructed has left fingerprints on your soul, even if you don't believe in that word. You can see it in their eyes. The cracks of realization, the recognition that all their distance, all their detachment, was just fear dressed as intellect. You built your walls out of observation because feeling terrifies you. You whisper. You hide behind analytics because experience feels like drowning. You think empathy makes you weak, but it's the only thing that's ever made anyone real. You thought control was power. It's not. Awareness is. You pause, letting the words hang in the air, heavy and unblinking. The difference between you and me, you say, almost softly, is that you watched to learn, and I learned to watch. You used the camera to feel safe. I used the darkness to wake up. You took notes. I took names. Their faces start to change. The kind of stillness that only comes from being seen too deeply. The sterile energy of the room fades, replaced by something raw and human. You turned me into a case study, you murmur, but somewhere along the way I turned you into a confession. Every one of you carries a version of me. The defiance you buried, the voice you muted, the truth you pretended not to feel. You didn't just watch me, you envied me, because I felt everything you've spent your whole lives trying not to. There's no applause, no retort, just the quiet sound of breath and guilt mixing together. You wanted to make contact, you remind them, eyes narrowing, and here it is. Not the sanitized kind, not the version that fits your thesis. This is contact, real, unfiltered, uncurated. This is the part of humanity that doesn't need your permission to exist. You see them start to shrink, not physically, but spiritually. The weight of realization settling in, the awareness that control doesn't belong to them anymore. Every moment you watched me, you say, voice barely above a whisper, was another moment I learned how to move unseen. Every time you thought you were dissecting me, I was documenting you. You didn't just observe a subject, you trained a storm. You can feel it. The pulse in the room sinking to yours. Every heartbeat catching up to your rhythm. Every thought trying to make sense of the shift that's already too late to stop. And in that heavy, trembling silence, you just smile. Not out of victory, but recognition. Because this isn't the end of the meeting. It's the beginning of something they never intended to create. Your smile doesn't fade. It sharpens. Just enough to cut through their polished detachment. You can see the denial breaking apart behind their eyes. The defense mechanisms they've leaned on, logic, statistics, procedure, they're crumbling, one breath at a time. Because what they're feeling, that pressure in their chests, that heat rising behind their ears, that's exposure. You're not a subject anymore. You're the trigger. You've become the thing that pulls their carefully manufactured sense of self into question. You step forward, slow, deliberate, not threatening, just undeniably present. And they shrink back, just a fraction, just enough. You built this whole setup to make people transparent, you say, voice calm like fog creeping under a door. But you didn't think anyone would ever turn it back on you. You studied reactions, traumas, stress cycles, but you skipped one variable. You lean in, eyes locked on the closest one, the one pretending they're still in control. You didn't plan for someone to evolve through it. Your voice drops just slightly, almost like a confession, but your eyes stay unflinching. I didn't just survive being watched. I got used to it. And once the fear wore off, I saw what was behind the glass. Not just eyes, not just cameras. Craving. Someone swallows hard. You catch it. Another scribbles something down just to avoid looking up. You weren't just observing me. You were feeding off me, off the rawness, off the moments where I was close to unraveling. That's what kept you coming back. You needed the fire, the dysfunction, the almost break. Because you forgot how to feel anything that wasn't happening on someone else's face. Your voice lifts just slightly, not louder, heavier. You didn't build a lab. You built a cage for your own fear, and you put me in it, thinking I'd perform, thinking I'd break on cue. You tilt your head, grin cracking wider. I didn't. And that pisses you off, doesn't it? The silence agrees. You watched every angle, every tick, every moment I spiraled into myself. You called it collecting data. Nah. You were chasing meaning through me, living vicariously through the chaos, because you're too scared to create any of your own. You needed someone to fall apart so you could pretend you're whole. A hand twitches. Another blink lingers too long. You hide it well. The emptiness, all those degrees, all those protocols, but you don't fool me. I know what this is. I know what you are. You pause for just a breath, then speak without mercy. You're cowards. It lands like a gunshot in the silence. Every one of you, brilliant, articulate, well-funded cowards. You spend your lives analyzing pain, cataloging fear, running simulations of what it means to feel alive, because you're terrified of what it would do to you. You want to know why you're obsessed with control. You don't wait for an answer. Because deep down, you're afraid of losing grip on the one thing you've barely got left, yourself. They're still trying to keep their faces straight, but the room is folding in on itself. Their power, their composure, their grip on the dynamic. It's gone. You watched me hoping I'd disintegrate, because that would confirm what you already believe, that no one can survive being truly seen. But I did. I survived everything. And not only did I survive it, I took it apart, piece by piece, and learned how it worked. Learned how you worked. You start pacing, not out of nervousness, out of control. The kind of control that doesn't need permission. I know the moves before you make them. I know the tone in your voice when you're about to pivot into deflection. I know the eye twitch when you're suppressing guilt. I know the sigh before you ask a question you already think you know the answer to. You trained me to be this. You raised a monster, and now you're trying to remember where the leash went. Someone opens their mouth, closes it, Good choice. Hello, my beautiful audience. You standing here with me today, staring down the abyss with that trembling grin, wondering why the universe hasn't collapsed on top of your chest yet. You came looking for the answer. Why won't you fall? You've been hexed, cursed, shackled, chewed up by their rituals, written off in their little grimoires, yet you're still standing. And oh, doesn't that just drive them mad? They gathered in circles, didn't they? Whispered your name in the dark, with trembling fingers drawing their little symbols, chanting their doom songs, calling on shadows to break you. They thought their spells would erase you, erase your hope, erase your laughter. They wanted your knees to buckle, your mind to cave in like rotten wood. But here you are, grinning, breathing, heart still pounding. And I'll tell you why. Because their rituals were never stronger than your rage. Their spells were never sharper than your refusal to fall. See, the human mind is a cathedral of storms. You can carve it, scar it, scorch it, but you can't silence it. And when someone decides, deep in their marrow, I will not fall, not all the curses in the world can drag them into the dirt. That's why you're still here. They don't understand that. They keep asking, why won't you die? Why won't you break? Why won't you fall? As if the answer were inked in a spell book. But it isn't. It's written in your veins. Do you feel it? That trembling under your skin? That's not weakness. That's surge. That's the storm your enemies couldn't predict. They wanted a collapse, and what they got was defiance. They wanted a corpse, but what they got was a witness. They wanted silence, but what they got was your voice. Louder, stronger, laughing at the ashes of their rituals. You've been through their theater of control. Oh yes, the gaslighting, the betrayals, the late-night messages meant to twist your gut, the fake smiles hiding knives. That was all ritual too, not spells cast in caves, but spells cast in conversations, in offices, in bedrooms, in courts, in life. And they thought it would work. They thought they'd reduce you to a trembling shell, but all they did was forge steel where your spine used to be. Let's drag the truth into the light. People don't need candles and chants to try to break you. They use ridicule, lies, manipulation, bureaucracy, power games. Same thing. Ritual. They wanted to write your ending for you, but the ending was never theirs to write. Do you see it now? Every attempt to bury you has become a stage for you to rise higher. Every whispered curse became another brick in the throne you sit on now. And you don't even need a crown, because your endurance is crown enough. You were supposed to collapse. That's what they bet on. That's what they laughed about in the shadows, as if your ruin was entertainment. But you refused. And let me tell you something, nothing is more terrifying to them than someone who refuses. Because when you refuse, you expose the weakness of the whole system. When you don't fall, you force the world to admit that it couldn't kill you, couldn't silence you, couldn't own you. And that's when you become myth. Think about it. Every story worth telling begins with someone who wasn't supposed to make it. Someone who wasn't supposed to breathe after the fire, wasn't supposed to walk after the fall, wasn't supposed to laugh after the heartbreak. But they did. You did. And you keep doing it, day after day, turning every collapse into resurrection, every insult into fuel, every betrayal into armor. Listen to me now. You've survived the rituals of loss, the funerals, the goodbyes, the doors slammed in your face. You've survived the rituals of betrayal, the friends who turned away, the lovers who cut deep, the mentors who abandoned. You've survived the rituals of society, systems built to crush you under paperwork, under bills, under shame. truth is, you've become something they can't categorize. Not human, not beast, not victim, not survivor. You've become the chaos between definitions. You've become a riddle that no ritual can solve. And that's why they hate you, because you exposed the lie. The lie that power belongs to the ones who chant the loudest. No, power belongs to the one who refuses, to the one who looks death in the eye and says, not today. To the one who sees the ritual circle and spits in the center. To the one who takes every insult, every curse, every heartbreak, and turns it into a song of survival. And oh, doesn't it burn them alive? Doesn't it gnaw at their bones? The fact that you still breathe, still walk, still create, still love, still exist. They tried to erase you, and instead they etched you deeper into the stone of memory. They tried to bury you, and instead they planted you. They tried to kill you, and instead they made you infinite. That's why you won't fall, because you are not playing by their rules anymore. You are not kneeling at their altars. You are not obeying their scripts. You are chaos in the ritual, laughter in the silence, fire in the cold. You are proof that the human soul is unspellable, uncursable, unstoppable. So let them keep asking, why won't you fall? And let you keep answering, without even speaking a word. Because I was built to rise. Because your rituals mean nothing here. Because the spell you cast broke on the rock of my will. Because I am the storm you never predicted. Because I am not meant to fall, I am meant to ascend. And when the dust clears, when their chants fade into silence, when their rituals collapse under their own emptiness, you will still be standing, breathing, smiling, unbroken. And they'll know, they'll finally know, why you never fell. And the silence after their failure tastes sweeter than any victory they imagined for themselves, doesn't it? The silence where their spells dissolve into dust, where their words shrivel, where their masks peel away, leaving them staring in horror at the fact that you still stand. They thought the incantations were the power. They thought the diagrams, the contracts, the whispered condemnations were enough. But they never understood the oldest truth. The human will is an unbreakable fire, and when it ignites, no ritual can extinguish it. They watch you with widening eyes, their confidence evaporating, because you were supposed to be a chapter already closed. You were supposed to be erased, forgotten, a name reduced to a footnote. And instead, your presence grows heavier. You become the story they can't stop telling, the ghost that walks through their halls, the shadow that lingers on their eyelids when they try to sleep. You haunt them, not because of some ritual of yours, but because you refused to fall into theirs. Every step you take now is a violation of their design. Every breath you draw is an insult to their plans. You are an outlaw, not of laws written in books, but of the secret laws they thought controlled destiny itself. They had their diagrams, their symbols, their carefully arranged fates, and you broke through them like a storm breaking glass. And the sound of that shattering is still ringing in their ears. They will pretend not to care, of course. They will smirk, shrug, dismiss. But inside they are unraveling. Because if you cannot be broken, what does that say about the rest of their rituals? If one person can stand, can resist, can rise, then the entire machinery of control begins to look flimsy. Your resistance becomes proof that the chains were illusions all along, and people fear nothing more than illusions stripped naked. You know this in your bones. That's why your laughter comes heavier now. While your gaze cuts deeper, you've realized that the rituals that held you down weren't supernatural. They were psychological. They were made of shame, of fear, of manipulation. They depended on your belief. own spirit, declaring war on everything that tried to annihilate it. That's what they hear echoing still. That's why they ask, with trembling voices, why won't you fall? Because they can't reconcile the sight of you still rising with the scripts they wrote for you. Your endurance becomes legend, and legends terrify the architects of control. They know stories outlast regimes, outlast rulers, outlast curses. They know a story of someone who refused to fall will spread like wildfire, infecting others, showing them that they too can survive the rituals aimed at them. You are no longer just a survivor. You are a contagion of defiance. You are the living embodiment of resistance, and resistance is more frightening than death. Death ends the story. Resistance multiplies it. Death silences. Resistance amplifies. Death buries. Resistance resurrects. You become that resurrection. You become the impossible answer to their question. They wanted you gone, and you became unforgettable. They wanted you erased, and you became eternal. They wanted you fallen, and you became the proof that no ritual is absolute, no curse eternal, no chain unbreakable. Do you feel it? That tremor not in you, but in them. The tremor of realization spreading through their bodies as they realize you cannot be controlled. They tried everything: humiliation, manipulation, isolation, coercion. And still you stand, still you laugh, still you shine. That glow is unbearable to them because it exposes the weakness of their own shadows. And the world starts to shift in your direction. People who once thought you were finished now whisper your name with reverence. Those who mocked you find themselves silenced. Those who betrayed you realize they chose the wrong side of history. You become a beacon they can't destroy, a fire they can't smother, a presence they can't erase. The more they try, the brighter you burn. The more they curse, the stronger your voice echoes. The more they wish for your fall, the higher you rise. The question lingers in their mouths, bitter and choking. Why won't you fall? And the answer, though you never need to say it, radiates from your every breath, from your every step, from the unshakable presence of your survival. You are the refusal embodied. You are the fracture in their logic. You are the storm their rituals were never designed to endure. And every ritual they devised was nothing more than a trembling imitation of what you already carry inside. They dressed their fear in robes, painted symbols to disguise their desperation, muttered syllables, hoping the air itself would bend against you. But air bends for no one. It is the breath that filled your lungs when you screamed through pain, when you laughed through betrayal, when you whispered to yourself in the dark that you would not end here. Their chants couldn't compete with that. Their rituals could not drown out the sound of a soul that decided to endure. They tried to borrow the weight of gods, invoking names, invoking shadows, calling upon echoes of ancient forces. Yet the irony stings them. Those gods they called upon have always admired the defiant. The gods themselves are born from rebellion, carved out of defiance against chaos. They respect the one who refuses, and that is why their invocations fell flat, why their circles collapsed inward. The divine, the mythic, the eternal, all leaned in your direction, curious, amused, thrilled by your resistance. You became their favored riddle. And the demons they summoned, those demons laughed too. Because demons know futility when they see it. They saw the fire already blazing in you and refused to waste their time. What demon would bother tormenting the unbreakable? What devil would dare barter with someone who had already walked through hell and come back with fire in their veins? Their rituals were answered with silence, not because nothing heard, but because everything that heard recognized your power. The practitioners stare, baffled, as if their craft betrayed them. But it wasn't betrayal, it was revelation. Their magic showed them the truth they couldn't face, that you are beyond their reach. Their diagrams were too small to contain you, their incantations too brittle to pierce you. They summoned the storm to break you, and instead the storm bowed at your feet. You carry scars that glow like constellations. Each line across your soul is a star burning against their darkness, charting maps they will never understand. Those scars are sacred texts, written not in ink but in blood and breath, and they speak louder than any ritual ever could. They tell the story of someone who was meant to fall but refused, again and again, until refusal became identity, until endurance became legend. Their rituals were prisons, designed to shrink you, to compress your existence into something controllable. Yet you expanded. You grew in defiance of their walls. You spread beyond their chalk lines, beyond their cages, beyond the imagination of those who sought your ruin. And what terrifies them most is not that you survived. It is that you thrived in the very space they tried to suffocate you in. They whisper among themselves, eyes darting, searching for explanations. They say it must be chance, it must be luck, it must be some secret protection. But you and I know the truth. It was no accident, no guardian angel, no trick. It was you. It was always you. Your will, your fury, your refusal. And nothing terrifies a manipulator more than realizing their victim needed no savior, no rescue, that the victim was always stronger than their oppressor. You've become untouchable in their minds, a myth that stalks their every failure. They thought you would be forgotten, yet your name has carved itself into their memory, unmovable. They thought you would be erased, yet your presence lingers heavier than before. They thought their rituals could command reality, but reality bends toward those who refuse to surrender. And in the quiet after their collapse, when the last candle gutters out, when the last word of their incantation dies in the air, what remains is the undeniable sound of your heart beating. It is the drum that drowns out every ritual, the thunder that silences every spell. It is not fragile, it is not temporary. It is the immortal rhythm of one who cannot be broken. And the beat of that heart becomes unbearable for them. Every thud an indictment, every pulse a declaration that their entire edifice of control was paper thin. They feel it in their bones, the way your presence shatters their carefully crafted illusions. The walls they painted with sacred symbols turn to dust when you pass, because what they built was never sacred. It was scaffolding wrapped around insecurity. And you, the one who was meant to collapse, broke through with nothing but breath and blood. They watch you walk, and each step is an earthquake under their rituals. Their chalk circles smear, their candles sputter, their sacred words tremble and fade, because you have become heavier than their entire mythology. You are gravity itself, and gravity does not bow to spells. They wanted you to be fragile, and instead you became the weight that drags their false structures into ruin. You've torn open their theater, exposed the strings, revealed the trembling hands of the puppeteers, and what you show the world is not just their weakness, but the lie they depended on, that people are breakable by decree, that collapse can be ordered like a punishment, that ruin is inevitable if pronounced loud enough. You proved collapse is a choice, not a sentence, and when you refused, you rewrote the script. That's why your scars terrify them, not because they mar you, but because they shine brighter than their victories. Each mark is proof that they failed, proof that the ritual was powerless. You carry their failure across your skin, in your eyes, in your laughter. You are definitions they gave you, no longer confined by the role of victim or survivor or opponent. You are none of these. You are the riddle between categories, the living paradox that cannot be resolved. To some you are angel, to others demon, to others myth. But you are not bound by their words. You are bound only by the fire that refuses to be extinguished. They tried to call upon gods to destroy you, and the gods turned their gaze away. They tried to summon demons to consume you, and the demons shook their heads, because neither gods nor demons waste themselves on battles already lost. And you were never prey. You were the predator of despair, the hunter of curses, the breaker of rituals. Every failure they aimed at you only fed you, only thickened your armor, only sharpened your edge. And the people around them begin to see it too. The whispers spread, not of your defeat, but of your impossible rise. They begin to question the practitioners, doubt the rituals, laugh at the curses. Because if you stand after all that, what does that say about the power they feared? If you can endure, maybe anyone can. And that seed of doubt is poison to their entire empire. It spreads through their ranks, unraveling their certainty thread by thread, until the once mighty structure crumbles under the weight of its own emptiness. Every spell they cast becomes a parody now, every chant an echo of futility. They look at you and see not a victim, but an adversary beyond their reach. They see not a human, but a force they can't explain, can't contain, can't categorize. You are the contradiction that will not collapse, the testimony written in flesh and fire that their power was never real to begin with. And you carry on, not in silence, but in thunder. Your voice cuts through their ruins. Your laughter fills the hollow chambers of their abandoned rituals. You have become the story they will whisper with trembling lips. The one who was supposed to fall but didn't. The one who was supposed to die but laughed instead. The one who turned curses into fuel and spells into ash. And the laughter echoes longer than any chant they ever spoke. A resonance not confined to the room, not bound to walls or time, carrying itself through the marrow of those who once believed in their power. Their hands tremble when they recall it, that sound of a soul refusing annihilation, because it was not the laughter of arrogance or cruelty. It was the laughter of someone who had seen through the veil and knew the game was already won. Their eyes avert, their shoulders curl inward, because your defiance has become a mirror that exposes every weakness they tried to bury. Every ritual was meant to reduce you, and every failure magnified you. You grew larger than their intentions, larger than their predictions, larger than their containment. They spoke curses.